One of 15 startups pitching at Rabobank's Food Bites competition in Chicago, Spira is building a business around the nutrient-packed blue-green algae spirulina.
Spira is a B2B ingredient supplier. We particularly focus on replacements for petroleum-based dyes and animal compounds in the food supply by using spirulina and other forms of microalgae. And what makes us different is that we leverage a particular technology that uses genetic engineering as a means of engineering stability and more functionality into our overall ingredients. The way that I put it to people is that I kind of wanted to have Spira be the Willy Wonka of algae, being able to figure out new ways of presenting it in such a way that it delights our clients and enables moments of surprise and awe.
Okay, so what's your business model? Are you setting up a big spirulina farm, or are you working with existing players?
Yeah, so what we enjoy doing is actually leveraging existing infrastructure. So we have virtually none of our own infrastructure. We work with existing farms all over the world in developing countries, and what we do is we enable employment in those developing nations. We purchase their overall spirulina product and then process it and upcycle it in Los Angeles.
Okay, so what is it that's distinctive through this genetic engineering that delivers a superior or more interesting product?
So the biggest problem with using natural dyes and colorants currently is that when you put it on the shelf, it ends up bleaching out and it doesn't remain stable, especially due to the kind of processes that the food industry currently uses. And so what Spira does is, using our technology, we engineer stability into the overall pigment protein to enable it to maintain that color and remain stable in current beverage processes, confectionery processes, cosmetic processes.
Because spirulina is already approved as a blue food colour for various applications, does this sort of broaden the range of applications then? It just means a wider range of...
Right, yeah. Using this kind of engineering technique, we'd be able to get at other kind of potential applications of spirulina, and in addition, being able to refine it and fractionate spirulina into various components, we're able to tackle problems that face not only the pigment space, but also the plant-based milk and meat market.
Okay, so tell me a bit about that. So if you've extracted the colour, what is left and what can you do with it?
Right, so the color is just one small component of spirulina in total. You also have proteins, lipids, vitamins, and minerals. And so when we extract out the pigment, you're left with this really amazing protein isolate that we've been working on that we think has really great applications for plant-based milks and meats.
So what is appealing about the protein, and once you've extracted the colour out of it, what colour is the protein isolate? Is it also blue? Or
No. So once you take out the colors, it's mainly like a beigeish, whitish color, and then it has certain appealing properties, particularly in texture. And then organoleptic properties make it so that it's much easier to use than some existing protein isolates.
And what about its nutritional profile, its amino acid profile?
Right. So we're still undergoing testing with that, and if there's people who are interested, I can kind of send samples and release that information to those prospective clients.
Okay. So tell me a bit about the progress that you've made to date.
Right, so we started 3 years ago, and I actually started by living on spirulina. I was in a very rough position after I had graduated. I have a background in synthetic biology, and I built this laboratory, but had a couple of clients that never paid me for consulting work, and wound up having to move out before I was evicted. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and my only cost was food. So I looked into what NASA was doing for astronauts, and they were growing spirulina. And so I figured if they were growing it, I could probably grow it. I got a bunch of aquarium tanks from my friends and ended up growing it in a garage lab and taking giant scoops of fresh spirulina out of there. And lived on that in a diet of food waste for 2.5 months before getting into Rebel Bio. And then that kick-started our journey. We've gotten grants from the World Food Program and National Science Foundation, and have built out a client list of about 26 really active companies, 4 active paid pilots, and recently moved to Los Angeles to set up a production facility.
Okay, very interesting. What about the regulatory status of some of these ingredients? Because there's been food additive petitions in relation to spirulina as a blue food colour, but if you're meddling with the genetics of it in some way, would you require some additional...
Yes, yeah. So we're very aware of different kind of regulatory requirements and are very careful in going through the particular routes that are necessary to get approval for those ingredients. So yes, it requires some additional care and quality assurance and making sure that we go through the right kind of regulatory hurdles to get approval. That being said, as it stands right now, the FDA has no questions on gene editing in particular related to CRISPR engineering. But that being said, we still want to make sure that we're doing the proper testing and responsible testing to make sure this is not only a safe but also effective product.
So tell me a bit about the milestones and what lies ahead for the company.
Right, yeah. So over the next couple of months, we're raising a financing round, and upon successful close of that financing round, we should be establishing a pilot plant in Los Angeles. We'll expand our production partners and start implementing our proprietary strain and the production thereof with these farming partners all over the world, enabling employment of all those farmers and absorbing tons of CO2 in the process. We'll start expanding the sales of our individual ingredients and shipping out samples to prospective clients.
So for the colours, who would your customers be? Would you be supplying food and beverage companies, or would you be doing a deal with some of the big food colour companies who already have the relationships?
Yeah. It would be amazing to immediately sell to massive companies, but we're very aware and responsible in kind of our approach to the market. We want to make sure that we test with smaller companies initially to provide case studies and showcase that people actually do want these ingredients and they want to use them and they have the kind of qualities and effect that and functionality that companies are looking for. So initially we're selling to smaller companies, but we have a lot of prospective clients in the pipeline that are much larger that are really interested in what we're doing.